What's up everybody, welcome back to another live stream. We have match preview today, Oxford v QPR, live tomorrow night, 7:45 at the Kassam Stadium. Your referee will be Liam James Finney, not really heard of him. It will be live on Sky Sports Plus, so go and check that out tomorrow. We shall be live from, well, I would say 7:30 tomorrow. Who we got in the chat? We have Ryan in the chat at the moment. Hello, mate. Thoughts on our new striker? Like I said, I'm not a big understanding of him. I'm not gonna judge him because we judged Burrell and look what happened there. I'm not gonna judge him just yet. What I will say is this: he looks talented. He does. It looks like he could be a good signing for us for 500,000. Like we all know with Nuri and the club and Julian Stefan, we want to bring up players that are gonna sell on for quite a good price in the future. Not just as in that, but also a good growth in them. Someone that can develop with us. You know, we wouldn't be going in for him if he wasn't like that. And you know, I've probably said this too many times, but Burrell, who we bought off for $1 million from Burton and Albion, we probably double the price or even triple the price right now. So yeah, I would personally say, you know, we'll wait to see what we see from him. He's a similar striker to Burrell, he is, and good luck for him, man. Honestly, you know, it's a good signing in money wise. It is for 500,000. But it's down to the fact being, are we going to use him? And that's the main thing. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. And obviously, I don't think he'll be in the team tomorrow because I think we signed him a bit too late. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, again, me repeating myself. What are your thoughts on it, Ryan and Nick? Well, just realised Nick's just in the chat. Sorry, Nick. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the chat. How are you, Nick? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments as well. What you think of the new signing. Personally, like I said, I'm not going to judge just yet until we see a bit more of him. I know obviously Burrell's injured, and him coming in sounds like Burrell could be injured for quite a bit. So yeah, but that's that. We are here right now talking about the match tomorrow. As you can tell by the title, we're getting down into the serious shit now, man. Honestly, like, I'm sorry to say it, QPR fans, you might hate me for it, but some questions do need to be said. Where is the creativity coming from? We need answers, and we need it in actions and not just words. So yes, is 4-4. I was gonna put is 4-4-2 the correct formation for us? But you know, nothing's gonna change there. I don't think nothing's gonna change. So yeah. Who else in the chat? How are we? Anyone else in the chat? Tonight, big game tomorrow. Anyone else there? Anyone else there? Who else we got in the chat? No news yet on anything else about QPR. Just pretty much Jalen Pearman getting knocked out of the cup with Australia. Apart from that, Alfie Lloyd going out on loan to Lincoln City. He did. So yeah. We have 0 creative players at the moment. I really don't know where the assists and even goals come from. QPR Ryan says. Yeah, it's a big question that we will get into in this match preview. QPR apologised to Manchester City loanee Divin Mumba after obviously the horrific injury for him. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's horrific, but if he's just a bad sprained ankle, you know, Jimmy Dunn didn't mean it, but when you're a player of Jimmy Dunn's caliber, you're gonna go in hard, you know, in challenges. So yeah. Nick says, not too sure, as we know Frey was okay, and then now really isn't really what they want. Some interesting thing is needed to replace Frey. I don't know if anyone's actually acknowledged this, but with Frey, has anyone realised, you know, with Julian Stefan, right, the way he plays, I don't think he wants tall players. Has anyone noticed that? you know, Zancella going, Michi going, you know, I mean, tall players and forwards. So yeah, Michi Frey going if he is going. Good luck to him. Hopefully, all the best. You know, I still think he's a good player. But you know, I don't know what to say much about him. So yeah. Right, let's get into the match preview after these last questions. Steve K says 2-1 to QPR tonight. My predictions. You mean tomorrow night, mate? Tomorrow. Morrison is going to Aberdeen. Okay, where the hell are you finding this? I'm not even finding this today. I've only heard about Morrison going out loan, but not even to Aberdeen. Jesus Christ. Well, we'll talk about that afterwards. We will. Let's get into the preview. So, yeah, as you can see, QPR will be heading to the Kassam Stadium for round 28 in the EFL Championship against Oxford United. Now, last time our result against them was pretty decent, I would say, if I'm not mistaken. Was it pretty decent? Actually, I've got to double check that, actually. Yeah, we won 3-1. We drew 0-0 in October. Sorry, what am I saying? We drew 0-0 with Oxford United in October the 1st. It was probably, I reckon, a 8 o'clock game. It was on a Wednesday night, so yeah. But we'll get into that in a minute. Hang on, let me just see this. Nick says, trouble with Frey, that he isn't really quick where the guy should be. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think maybe it's to do with that, to be honest. I'm not too sure, but yeah. But yeah, head-to-head wise with Oxford, we have more wins than them against each other. 4 wins, 1 draw, 2 wins for Oxford. Previous results have gone our way until 2023, where we lost 5-0 in that club friendly. But anything in the league, we've been pretty good with them. Oxford sit pretty much bottom of the table, 23rd. Their form is not great. Last time we had them, obviously Gary Rowett was the man. Well, Gary Rowett is still the manager, I think, and was a bit of a rough game. It was on that night. So yeah, but they sit 23rd with a bad form at the moment, just like us, bad form. But we sit 11th. We do. Now, if we go into the game previously. Now, for what I can see, we dominate the game pretty well against Oxford at home. 56% possession with 44% possession to them. Expected goals wasn't great with 0.77. Total shots 13. Match momentum was pretty good. We had on and off spells. We did. Match rating wise, Frey and Kone was the day that them two did play. I honestly think Field and Hayden was playing as well. Duncook and Bengay and Davis with Vale on the right. They will be playing probably 4-4-2 against us. They will. If we look at previous results with Oxford United, so the last game they played was the draw against Bristol City, where they were at home. Match momentum wise wasn't great. It was all Bristol City, to be honest, but Oxford at the end of the game pretty much dominated it, and expected goals there. Total shots pretty big for Oxford there. If I can see, if we looked at the lineups, 4-2-3-1, yet again changing it up. Rowett. They also played in the FA Cup, which they won. Milton Keynes Dons. Pretty much an even game there as well. And then 2 losses, Ipswich and Swansea, where Ipswich dominated them. No surprise there. And then Swansea dominating Oxford in that loss as well. And then they did beat Southampton back in, I think it was December the 26th, Boxing Day, at home. Southampton pretty much dominated the game, but Oxford got lucky with the goals, I guess, on that one. So yeah, so what we expect to see, well, we've already been involved in this already this season with Oxford. What does Gary Rowett present? I would say the same thing as before. He likes his set pieces. He uses tall players in the box. We've noticed that in the last game, where obviously when he was even at Millwall and all that, he likes tall presence in the boxes. So we've got to be careful with set pieces. We've got to be careful with corners as well, I would say. and just crosses into the box generally. They got pace down the wings. You know, Lancashire up front, pretty decent striker, 6 goals, 1 assist this season. Brannigan, 4 goals, 1 assist in the middle. That pretty much in that 10 role. And then obviously Mills on the wing with 2 goals, 1 assist. We got to watch out for their central defensive mid, the Kurzmaker, with 4 assists. He's pretty much very good box-to-box player he is. And then defense-wise, they've got a really decent defense with Curry and Heelick and Brown. Cumming is not very great in goal, to be honest. So that's one thing that I can say right now, which I'm not worried about. But yeah, we are pretty much, what, 3 points, not even that, 4 points away from playoffs. So we can only move into the top 10 against Oxford. We can if we win. So that is pretty much all we can say on that one, to be honest. So yeah, what QPR need to do really is pretty much creativity issues. You know, our defense has been perfect, absolutely perfect for the last couple of games since West Ham. And I'm really happy with Jimmy Dunn and Steve Cook and Joe Walsh. You know, they've all been pretty impressive lately. Would I say change the team? I think we should keep Joe Walsh in goal. Sorry to say it, but it's the truth. Joe Walsh did really phenomenal against West Ham and the previous game against... Who did we play last game, actually? Who did we play? Oh my god, I'm losing my plot. Stoke City away. My apologies. Yeah, Joe Walsh, I know a lot of you, some of you are big fans of Joe Walsh. I am too, in the sense of when he's on form. You know, last 2 seasons he's been pretty good coming on, like, obviously being here and there, playing. But realistically, this season he's not had a great run of form. But I would say, I don't know what's happened to him, but since West Ham, he's been brilliant. You know, I know it's only been 2 games, but, you know, he's pulling off some good saves. He's not making the mistakes that he was making before by running out of the goal so much. He's actually, when he runs out of goal now, he's actually being a bit patient, understanding his surroundings and communicating with his players. So, no bad things to say about him at the moment. Would I say keep him a goal? Like I said, yes. I think he deserves it. I think he played bloody brilliantly. I will get into the comments soon. Let me finish this. But yeah, Dunn, obviously, you know, when it comes down to rotation for these games, we have Oxford. Obviously, it's Tuesday night. It's like literally 2 days rest. Really, just 2 days rest. But personally, I think Ronnie Edwards might want to come in for Mbenge. Shift Jimmy Dunn to the right, maybe, would be decent. You know, we ain't really got to worry about anyone pacey, that much pace, I think, for Oxford, apart from Dembele's brother. But apart from that, I think Jimmy Dunn did really well on the right last time against Oxford to keep 0-0. So maybe stick Steve Cook, Ronnie, both in the middle. Jimmy Dunn out wide. Give Mbenge a rest. Davis. I would say put Samfield. Put Samfield at left back. Yeah, I would say Escudina, but right now I'm not too comfortable with Escudina, unfortunately. So yeah. The midfield wise, like I said, I don't want to go with 4-4-2. I want to see a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. I would say Madsen and Hayden are doing a phenomenal job without, obviously, Varane. Sticking them to keeping it like that would be phenomenal. Great against Oxford. Midfield-wise, I would personally say put Dembele in the middle, Smith on the right, Colley on the left, Kone up front. Stick it like that if you want to keep it the same. If you're going to look for rotation, see what we got fit. If it's Harveyvale fit, I'm not sure. I don't think anything's been said. But Harveyvale, in my point, put him in the middle or the right. Kieran Morgan, for example, maybe shift him in there as well in the middle. I like Kieran Morgan in the number 10. I'm sorry to say it, but I think he's a lot better as a number 10 than he is as a defensive midfielder or a box-to-box midfielder or a right back. You know, right back he seems to get a bit lost since Marty used him as a box-to-box player. He looks very decent as a box-to-box player, but I think realistically attacking player he is. Honestly, I think he could possibly be our number 10. Put your comments below what you think about that. Honestly, I think he could be our number 10 to replace Ilish Hair. It's just that simple. But Paul Smith, does he deserve a game? Yeah, of course he does. But like I said, rotation is key for energy wise, especially with only 2 days rest. So yeah, depending on the injury problems that we have and everything, will we see the new signing in Justin? I doubt it. You know, I don't know if he signed in too late or what, but if anyone has any information, put the comment below and let us know. But I honestly think if he does do anything, he'll be on the bench, personally. Collie, 2 goals this season, if you want to say 3 in the cup as well. Kone needs to get on form. I'm going to be deadly serious about this now. Kone is out of form completely. He has not scored that many since he was firing them in at the start of the season. You know, he scored Leicester. He did a really good game against Leicester, and yeah, going from there really. So yeah, let's know your thoughts on prediction wise. Put predictions down in the comments. I'm gonna go with a 2-0 win QPR, clean sheet for me. But I'm also gonna say, I also think, team-wise, put your predictions there. Honestly, put your predictions on the team, what you think. Should we be playing 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2? Or do you think, personally, that 4-4-2 is working, but the players inside of it are not capable of playing the 4-4-2? Because it's clear to me that there is changes going on, and we're going from there. But put your predictions in the comments below. Let us know what you think. So, yeah. But apart from that, match preview wise, that's pretty much it. Not much to really say apart from that. But just come on yours, really. Let's get this result. I'm saying 2-0. And fingers crossed we get to see Ronnie play, and that's about it, really. So yeah. Right. Let's have a look at the comments anyway with what we're seeing. We've got a lot of comments tonight to get through. A bit interactive tonight, it looks. Steve K, I think we've read yours already. My prediction, Cooper Ryan says Morrison is going to Aberdeen. I'm actually going to search this now to have a look. Liam Morrison, sorry for if you hear the keyboard. I do apologize if there's any news of him. Aberdeen looking to still loan move, signing for QPR Morrison. Okay, it's there, and it's from a good source, West London Sport, even though the guy who does some of the podcasts can be a bit of a donut. So yeah, Nick says trouble with Frey, that he isn't really quick where this guy should be. Yeah, I think that's the whole thing which I'm trying to explain now, is that I think with Julian, he doesn't like tall players, and tall slow players I should say. I think he likes pacey players to run, like the way he plays, and goes from there. I personally think Sella could have played in his role, but I honestly think we ain't going to see Sella now and Frey. If I'm seeing Frey go and they don't want Sella back from loan, I can tell you right now he's probably going to sell them both at the end of the season, or even in January with Frey. So yeah, depending on if we bring in more players as well. Rokura says, with our lack of quality at the moment, I think this game will be harder than we all think. Now you've said that, and I've mentioned a 2-0 prediction, you know, I understand what you're saying, but honestly, listen, look, I like Gary Rowett. I think he's a very good head coach. I think he is an old classic, kind of Dennis Wise type of coach person. But, you know, he has done good things in the Championship, I'm not gonna lie. What I'm more worried about is he reminds me of a little, I would say, what's the coach? I can't remember the coach's name, but you know, like I said, we gotta watch out for them crosses. You know, that's pretty much it. They have tall players, and that's what we gotta watch out for. Wing play type of style, you know, going from there. QR says also Matt Bloomfield is their new manager. Oh wait, did Rowett leave? Oh, I feel like an idiot. Let me look. Did he leave? Did Gary Rowett get sacked? Alright, okay, right. I'm gonna have to change the thumbnail. Sorry, people. I have to change the thumbnail. I need to look at this all over again. When did this come in? 3 days ago. Was it that the opening game ends in draw? Okay, so he ended the game in a draw. 0-0. All right, cool. Okay, now this all changes. Now this all changes. Right. Okay. I'm not even gonna say 2-0 now. I'm generally gonna say 1-0. You know, I like Matt Bloomfield. I think he's a good coach. I think we need to change everything what we're saying. I'm glad you said. I should have looked at the flipping comments before. Thank you for saving my ass. Ryan, thank you for saving my ass. But yeah, Matt Bloomfield is a good coach. I think. I have to go into all this. Last night I did not acknowledge man, I feel so awful. I'm sorry, people. Yeah, Matt Bloomfield is the manager. I was been stand corrected. I'm gonna have to change everything now to actually think, but looking at the last game, I would personally say Matt Bloomfield is, if I go on to the Stoke game, wait, hang on, that's not even us, that's Stoke. What am I doing? Oxford United, Bristol City. I need to look at certain stats now. Sorry about this. So the change of formation is why obviously what I was looking, creativity wise. Okay. Will Volks came on. Okay, cool. Well, it changes a lot. It changes a lot now. If Matt Bloomfield is their manager, would I say he is a wing play manager? I don't think so. I would personally say he doesn't like possession. I know that. I think he's more of a counter-attacker. He is. You know, I know we was interested in him as head coach before QPR was, but yeah, I can't really say much on him. We'll wait and see. We'll talk about him more tomorrow before the game. We'll probably come on earlier. Then let me do my investigation, because obviously, listen, I know about Matt, but I don't really know what he's done previously with his previous club. So yeah. But thank you, Ryan, for letting me know and making me look like a donut. Harvey says we signed a good player. Hopefully we'll find out soon. West Love says, what's up? What's up, DB? I'm all good, mate. How are you? Thank you for tuning in. DB, do you think Ronnie is a starter and switching Mbenge and dumb positions? I think Ronnie should start tomorrow for sure. I think he's ready. But I also think Mbenge needs a rest, and I also think Jimmy Dunn needs to be put back on the right if we're playing Ronnie. Like I said before in the preview, I would personally put Steve Cook in as he's in good form. If you're gonna give him a rest, maybe put Mbenge and Ronnie, but we'll see what happens. QPR Ryan says should get Brannigan in, good 10, and is a QPR fan. There's no links with Brannigan. I like Brannigan, and he's ex-Liverpool, you know, so, you know, he should be alright. But I'll be honest, I think Kieran Morgan could do the job. West of Love says, is Justin Obrett a good player or just rotational? Listen, you gotta look at it this way, right? With our club, we're trying to be like Brighton, you know. The facts are there. It proves we're there, you know. I can tell you this, right? In the Championship right now, we're probably going to look at exciting players to grow, such as League One players and Championship players. Possibly the odd Premiership player, but depending on the price tag. And then when we move into the Premier League, eventually, we'll probably do the same thing as Palace and Sunderland. Probably dip in to academies where someone's not getting a gameplay. Like, for example, if I was Palace right now, I would have gone in for Alfie Gilhurst, but that's out of the thing now. Mark Gray's gone, you know, that's them fucked. But, you know, I personally think what we're doing with transfers, you know, we have a good scouting team. I trust the scouting team with obviously Burrell. I didn't know much about Burrell. I judged him too early. I stand corrected. I admitted to that. I apologise. And Burrell is a quality player. If that is going by what we're scouting, I would say Obikwu or Justin, I'm going to just call him. He potentially could be a good player. You know, I think he potentially could be a good player. So we'll see what happens. I think, like he said, it's too late, obviously, for tomorrow. But we got plenty of enough of the season to see him play. So, you know, we got Burrell injured at the moment, and hopefully he can bag in some goals and fight for a place. You know, Kone is not doing the job at the moment. You know, Collie was fighting for it and he's doing some goals, but on the weekend it was just really shit. Nick says, I'm expecting Ronnie to start and hope to see Poku start if fit. Apart from that, I expect the rest of the team to be the same. Well, I don't think he's put anything out with the preview yet. We're still waiting for it to come out, but I don't know if Poku's going to play, but Ronnie should, for sure. I'm more concerned about Harvey Vale at the moment, to be honest. QR says, yeah, signed too late. Yeah, I had a feeling. Where are we? Because I'm going through these comments and I think I'm... Yeah, you could be right, DB. The trouble is with JS, you never know. The thing with JS is French. You know, French managers are good coaches and they like to change things up when they want to try things. I personally think right now, I think looking at what I saw is that I think he's experimenting with the defense. Whether it's Steve Bold or not, I reckon he's experimenting it with seeing what can improve and what he needs to do. Or it could have just been that he realizes with the fact that since Coventry and some other games, wide pitches are our nemesis. You know, it's not good. You know, it's our kryptonite. So maybe he's just trying new things, but we'll see what happens. You know, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be a fucking Man United person and say, oh, it's the formation and all that, because at the end of the day, I have full trust in Julian. I really do. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a great developer in players, and it's proof there in European football. You know, he has done it, but the fact is this, he's just come from a French league to a different league, which is a bit more fast-paced, in my opinion, than the French league. You know, the French league is, you know, there's not much competition. You know, even though top stars are there, but you got to remember, the Championship is, in my opinion, one of the best leagues, apart from the Premier League, in the world. It's the toughest league there because of the award that you get and obviously the relegation of disappointment as well. So, yeah, in my opinion, you know, Julian's got some time to think about what he needs to do and what the best tactic is into working in Championship. But for me, personally, I think he's doing a good job at the moment. You know, like I said, top 10 is realistic for this season. If he pushes into the playoffs, incredible achievement. But I think next season we'll see the best of it. And that's my opinion. You know, so, yeah. Westhoff says 1-0 to the R's. Nick says, I think 1-0 to us. I'm changing my mind to 1-0 now, so yeah. Westhoff says there's no point playing 4-4-2 as Kone can't score. You know, like I said, I agree so much of it. You know, 4-4-2 is not working. I believe if you're going to play two strikers up front, they got to be scoring goals or creating goals, and it's not happening. It's just not working. So, in my opinion, that's why I thought personally we need to change to the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3, but he has something up his sleeve, so we'll see what happens. Nick says, very difficult DB with formation. I guess we will have to wait till next preseason with additions and timing the fat, and then maybe see what the system will be. Like I said, I think right now with this season, as long as we finish top 10, I'm happy. You know, we're not ready for the Premier League whatsoever, but qualifying in playoffs is decent enough for me. You know, it shows me that, you know, we've built on and improved from Marty Fuentes, and that's the whole thing. As long as we finish in the top 10, I'm gonna sit here and say it's acceptable. Anything below top 10, then questions should be asked. What is going on? But the biggest thing right now is two things: creativity. Where's the creativity and the goal scoring? And number two, why is it we're having injuries yet again in the same time zone as last season? We have apparently the best coach or fitness, whatever it is, that, you know, is brilliant at this. But why are we still getting injuries? It's always hamstrings. It's always injuries like this. And please don't come out here and say it's a part of sport. It happens. Hello? Look at other clubs. No other club has had this amount of injuries before in the Championship. And this is in back-to-back seasons. It needs to be looked into. Honestly, in my opinion, if someone is getting injured as much as Poku, why are you putting him through so much training rehabilitate him, put him in as 1 day training and work more on his like strength or something. I don't know, but it needs to come to the part of Sir Alex Ferguson's type of decisions when, all right, for example, the only way to say it is this: everyone knows that for example, who was the player called? Ryan Giggs, right? Ryan Giggs tends to get injured quite a bit, right? He's quite fit, but he did get injuries quite a bit at the end of his, which is realistic. But there's a reason why he would play him, or like only put him in training in certain areas. So that's what I'm just trying to say. It's like injuries need to be looked into a lot. It's getting out of hand. It needs to be looked into. It's getting out of hand, and it's that simple. West 12 says, I hope Seller comes back. He will be class player for Julian's play style. Personally, I agree with you. I honestly agree with you as well. I'm a big fan of Seller. I think he's an incredible European international. He's played in very good teams, Roma, this and that. He's got experience, but the problem is, if he doesn't play Julian's football, he doesn't play Julian's football. What can we do? Julian Stefan now looks like he likes pace up front, and if he doesn't like tall players, he doesn't like tall players. But it looks to me that Seller, if he's not getting game time at where he is right now, and we're not allowing him to come back, it just means one thing to me, that we're probably going to end up selling him or releasing him. It's a waste of money in my opinion, but I honestly thought he would have done well this season. It was really interesting to see him in pre-season. I think he looked really more into it, but unfortunately we've just ruined his career, and I feel sorry for him. He literally, the worst part about it is this: we literally moved him out on loan as soon as he had a kid. It makes no sense, man. People need to start thinking about families, and you've brought him in from an international club, and he's just had a child this season, and you shipped him out on loan to fucking Germany. Like, unless he really wanted to, okay, cool, it makes sense. But like, it makes no sense. It just, it's stupid. Nick says, yep, ages ago. Yeah. I can't think of it. Right. Cuba Ryan says, do you expect any more signings, DB? I would hope so. We still, listen, look, if he's gonna go in for anyone, we need a right back for sure. And you know what? Looking at what we're missing still, do you know what? I would say a left back. Davis has not been in form in my opinion lately. If he continues like this, I don't know if I want to sign him. I personally don't know. I think we need to bring him we need to bring him some competition, because Escudina's not doing it. And I think a left back, we need to still sort out the defense. But also, if you're going to bring in a midfielder, we need a midfielder. Unless you're going to use Field, then cool. But I don't know what's going to happen there. But I would love to see more signings. I really would. I know, listen, look, we're not Birmingham. Birmingham are going over the top again. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Once we get news on it, we'll distribute it out there. But yeah, apart from that, I would love new signings. Cuba also says, thing is, we haven't seen Justin play in an actual decent side. Get the service and he will light up the loft end. If listen, look, if we use creativity for our strikers, the thing is, right, I'll put it in an example here, right? So you remember Sheffield Wednesday where Collie scored his goals, right? If you watch football carefully, you can see what Collie type of player is. Collie is the type of all advanced striker, a complete forward. He can do anything. He can header the ball. He can do whatever. Get past players and all of that. With Kone, he can't do that. It's that simple. It's that simple. Collie can do things on his own. But the thing with Collie, right, is this: the way he plays is where the creativity side needs. So where I think it was first goal or second goal, where he did the one, it was his first goal, sorry. He did the 1-2 with, was it Kone, I think? I'm not too sure. But he did a 1-2 and the ball went through in front of him, not to his feet, but went through to him. So that's what I'm trying to say. Seller is that type of guy. And Collie, is doing that as well. Kone for me is not that guy. Kone is a poacher, you know, and unless we're going to use him as a poacher, then cool, but we're not going to do that because we're not that type of playing style Julian is. That's how I see it. So yeah, but yeah, going away to it, Justin, yeah, I think listen, it's too early to say. We could talk more about him in the like obviously in the next couple of weeks and see what happens there. That's how I would say it. So yeah. You also say JS has worked with Kamavinga or some of Dembele, so definitely trust him. Develop your youth. Listen, he brought these. The thing is, he brought these players into the first team. Would I say he developed them? I would say kind of in the sense of first team football, but in the youth side, I would say they have a bit more. What's it called? A bit more into it, if that makes sense, where they know him better. You know, Julian can only watch him in a youth development, can't control him and ask him to do what. But once players come into the first team, then yeah. But right now, he hasn't really done anything for the youth team. You know, he's played. The only exciting player I can see him using in the future is Tylan Smith right now. I think he really likes Tylan Smith. So yeah. Nick says, I think if 4-4-2, then Kone should be the spearhead of the team and not a 10. It depending on what Kone is being used as. Like I said, I think Kone is a poacher. You know, I'm not discriminating him because I think he's a cracking striker. I think I was really happy for him to sign, and I was really happy for Christian Uri to dip into the checkbook to get him. You know, I think Kone is a brilliant striker, but it just comes down to it. You know, he's not a striker that can play two up front. He's a striker, in my opinion, that can only play one up front. It also depending on what Julian wants out of the team. Is it going to be an attacking game? Is it going to be a defensive game? You know, so it all comes down to what Julian does as well at the same time. You know, like I said, I think he's doing a cracking job, but tactically, I'm still finding it hard to see what he's doing. And when I was obviously watching videos when he came in from Strasbourg and Rennes, it's kind of different, in my opinion, to what he's doing at QPR. You know, at the start of the season, he's very attacking. I saw some of that in some of the videos at Strasbourg. Not much Rennes, but more Strasbourg. So, yeah. Maybe we might do an in-depth video of his playing, try and figure out what he's doing. But I think he's trying to bring something fresh to QPR, and that's my honest opinion. So, yeah. QPR says, we've done it with Willock. Let Poku rest for the remainder of the season and start fresh next one. Look how Chrissy turned out. This is what I'm saying. Like, I think when it comes down to injuries, it's like Chair, for example. Chair last season had 2 hamstring injuries. One at the start and one at the end. Which cost us big time. And for me, it comes down to the fact being that, one, regimes and how you're going to train this guy. If someone's having a constant hamstring injury, you can't put them through training that much. You need to focus more in the gym, maybe training by themselves once a week, training with a team once a week, something like that. And this is what Sir Alex Ferguson did with some players at United, this is why I loved Sir Alex Ferguson, and as well as flipping Clough as well. You know, when an injury-prone player is there, they don't use him much. Like Jake Clark-Soul, we haven't seen Jake Clark-Soul again for a while. You know, so in my opinion, it's the same thing. We can't. If you want these players to get injured, you know, you need to have a regime and sort it out, man, honestly. Because it's clear to me, we brought this guy back from fucking, what is it, Chicago Bulls, LA Knicks, whatever it is, and he's not doing the job. He's really not doing the job. It's bad, man. You know, Poku's been constant injured this season. We haven't seen the best of him. He luckily enough, he wasn't that much money, but it's not the point. The point is, he was a valuable asset at the start of the season, and that is that simple. You know, Chair as well, valuable asset. We are lacking creativity, and these players is what we need. Unless you're going to bring in or use a youth player that we know that can do it, Kieran Morgan, but you know, we'll see what happens. Nick says, with the left back including, think they will be hoping out of the 3 that we have one of them will come through. Ayak, early Escudino or Lakash. Otherwise, they need a replacement for Davis. the thing with the left back scenario is this, right? Escudina's not ready. It's that simple. Escudina has a lot to learn. You know, development squad is best for him right now. I would only play Escudina in games that are, for example, at home and are against, for example, table wise, Sheffield Wednesday, Portsmouth, Blackburn, Derby County, maybe. I'm just looking at teams that might be with low block and all of that. So yeah, that like that. If you only bring youth setup in when it's a game that you feel like it's pretty much too comfortable to win, kind of that type of thing. So yeah, but I would personally say when you said Escudina, I'm looking forward to seeing Lakesh come back. I think Lakesh last season was brilliant until he got injured. But Lakesh is an interesting left back. He is also French Algerian, I think it is, or French Moroccan. I can't remember, but he's an interesting player, and I think Julian really likes him. So when he comes back from injury, he'll be a good left back for us, I think. You know, he has been with Fulham and he has been with other teams, and Julian will know him pretty well. So yeah, I'm not worried about that. What I'm more worried about is the fact being that we need someone right now. But Akadinelli, I can tell you right now, he definitely has a future at QPR. If you saw him at pre-season, he looked brilliant. He's a very ball-playing defender. He does remind me a little of Rio Ferdinand. He did have his first game for Morecambe the other night. So if anyone watched him, keep eyes on that. Murphy Cooper, for example, just keep eyes on him at Sheffield Wednesday. And yeah, going from there. Ryan says, if we want playoffs next season, we can't go into the season with R&D Smith, even more simple as that, as they aren't cut for the time. So I would say to you right now, I don't think Paul Smith will get sold unless he just signed a new contract for a reason. As well as R&D, he's on loan. Do I think we'll sign him? I personally think if the fans want him, we'll go in for him. But if the fans see something else, because like for example Lakesh, I think Lakesh, to me, if he stays fit next season, he'll be the main left back next season. So yeah, but as far as it right now, I would say we need to probably get a left back on loan, something like that. Unless you're going to use Sam Field or someone else there. So yeah, I believe situation not including. Okay, but yeah, listen, look. At the end of the day, it's this, you know, we're only going to bring in the right players for the club, you know. Christian Uri is doing a great job in recruiting for not just the men's team, development team, women's team, and possibly with what he's doing right now with applying for the youth academy, their status thing, whatever it is, number category 1 or whatever, or A. It gives us the opportunity to actually bring foreign youngsters into this country to basically improve the squad. But realistically, I'm more of a person that wants to see good English young talent come through the group. So that's one thing that I want to see. You know, in my opinion, we let someone go in the summer that I thought was really good for the development squad last season. I could have potentially done well on the bench. In Murphy, is it Harry Murphy or something like that? I'm a bit surprised we let him go, but right now, you know, the only people that I would say that are coming through the ranks, you know, we got Can, we got Thingy who just went on loan, Coombs, I think it was. You know, I want to see some of these youth players make it into that team, like the Eze's, the Chairs, the Joe Walshes. You know, this is what QPR is about, and that's what we need to do. Christian Nuri's doing that job, but it's also down to whether they're ready or not, you know, and it's not a decision just for Julian. You have other people in that club that are making decisions for him as well. For example, the youth academy, the youth setup, and also his you know, Diarra. You know, apparently he's very good with youth, you know, so see what happens. Like said before, if we sign anyone, it will be permanent, or like you said, DB, alone in an emergency. I think any signing right now will be for the future, or it'll be a serious loan move. You know, like I said, Harvey Vale, they made the signing just because obviously they didn't want to mess up anything in the summer because he might have changed his mind. But we gave him that ability to basically get into fitness and stuff like that. So yeah, Kieran says a weird one from me, but I'd honestly say we need a winger as well. I'd sell Dembele as he's been pretty crap. Smith isn't good enough, so not really any good right-sided wingers as Poku is always injured. Honestly, Ryan, you're more than entitled to say what you want. Honestly, listen, look, I'm not gonna sit and say you're wrong because you're not. If you know, it depending on what Julian type of playing style is. Personally, for me, I think Paul Smith had a great start to the season, but he just has lost form in the last couple of weeks. You know, well, not even that. I would say last month or so. But with other people, you said Paul Smith. Dembele, since Sheffield United game, Dembele has been pretty impressive. But I would say, do you know what? I will say this, not to defend them, but since Portsmouth Boxing Day, every player has been shit for QPR. I will state that. You know, we've not been the best, and that's a fact. You know, the only thing that I can say here right now is that from West Ham, the defensive ability has been a lot better. I like the setup of the defensive ability, but I would personally say the attack does need to get sorted out. And if we do go for a winger, it depends on what we're going for. I personally think we have good players that can play in these winging positions. Obviously, you know, depending on what he likes. So yeah, but going from there, I don't think there's anyone out there right now that we're interested in a winger wise, unless you want to bring in a youngster or a loanee from a different club, then it's understandable. So yeah. If we really want to push for promotion, then we can't do it with them, unfortunately. But the thing is this: you know, at the start where we was in the playoffs, they were there, so I can't really state much on that. I think personally they're all talented players, they're all good players, but I personally think right now, is there anyone out there that we can grab? You know, the only person that I would like QPR to sign in attacking wise right now is Daniel Barton, I believe, from Cambridge. You know, Barton is not being used with Cambridge. He's a very talented youngster, and I think he's a very creative player, and he can get past players. You know, he has a bit of impressed me pretty much. But I think personally, if we're going with youngsters, I think we should grab him. And see what happens there. But if we're going with what we need right now, personally, I just think maybe right back, left back, midfielder, you know, striker wise, we've just sorted that out. But right now, realistically, if you're saying wingers, the only thing I would say is getting a loanee in, and possibly look at someone in the Premier League that's not being played, you know, and go from there. You know, there's a lot of talented wingers out there. I'm a big fan of what's his name? What's his name? Let me just get the name up. Again. Let me just get the. Give me a second. Sorry, I just need to get the name up. I apologize. Sorry. Players wise, trying to think of the team he plays for now. Do you know what? Shea Lacey is pretty decent for United. I've liked him for a while. Maybe him, Shea Lacey. Apart from that, I don't know. On otherwise, you know, Joe Hugill is a pretty impressive player for United. He's all right. But yeah, apart from that, I would say winger wise, I don't know. I think we're fine with winger wise. So yeah. But listen, look, excellent question, Nick. Excellent question, and yeah, we'll just go from there and we'll see what happens. Yeah, but our wingers don't get goals. Look at the top six, all their forwards, including wingers and squads. Ah, right. Okay, Ryan, this is a great question. Another great question, which I could definitely answer. Right, I'll put it in perspective. Right, look at it this way. first things first, we need to find out what playing style is Julian Stefan, right? Now, if you look at this way, right? Look at Arsenal, right? With Gyökeres, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, and whoever's there, right? I've got to put it this way for a reason. Now, there's a reason why Gyökeres ain't scoring that many goals. And it's a fact. No one is giving him the ball where he wants it. And that's why he's getting fed up and he's getting annoyed and doing it on his own. Saka is not a winger. Saka is an inside forward. And that's what his Arteta wants from him. Arteta seems to be liking to play with a deep line forward. Martinelli is an inside forward. He plays a same system as Klopp, I think, personally. And it goes from there. But if we're going to go with Julian, I personally think our wingers are not goal scorers. I think we're using wingers. We're not using inside forwards. Poku is an inside forward and a winger. Dembele is a winger. Sato is a winger. But Sato can also play as a number 10 as well as Dembele as a number 10. That's why I personally think why he's using a 4-4-2 is because he's using two wide midfielders. You know, just like that. I think he's utilising the crossing a lot more. So I personally think if we're going to do it, we need a 4-3-3 inside forwards. You know, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I would say first things first, you got to understand what the head coach is doing. What his playing style is. What is using his players as. You know, some people use one player this, one player that. But it's a great question. But I'm hoping my answer is okay for you to if that makes sense. So yeah. So yeah, Nick says, I still think we all agree we just need a right back, left back, and a goalie. Scoring box to box midfielder, so I think we need to wait till next season. I think right now, personally, it's just wing backs. You know, I think midfield wise we should be fine, but it would be nice to see someone come in and cover. But I think a goalie wise, if Nardi does go, then I can see another keeper coming in. So yeah. But this is what I say to always fans. Don't be so you know, ask the question first before determine it, because we don't know what Julian Stefan's trying to do at QPR at the moment. In my opinion, he's using wingers, not attacking midfielders and not inside forwards. And it is frustrating, but we have to kind of understand first with what he's doing at QPR. And this is why I like him. So yeah, but realistically, don't rush into the question in the sense of judging him, but I would say look at what he's trying to do first. Look at the gameplay, look at the highlights, wherever it is, and just go from there. So yeah. But it's a great question. It's a great question. Any other questions before we go? I'm not gonna lie, we've been going on for an hour. It's been great today, actually. It's been great chatting with all of you lot. I'm not gonna lie. It's been brilliant. Got a brilliant game tomorrow in Oxford. Hopefully the 3 points, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, all right, cool. Well, I'll give it a minute. Him doing this is killing our creativeness. Sato under Marty was different gravy. I agree. I agree with that. I listen. Look, I think with Sato, we saw a different Sato last season, but I only agree with it because if you remember how he used Sato when he came in to the club this season, Sato played in the middle, and he was really brilliant, and I really thought he was going to use him as a middle player. Now, if you look at Sato, what his best role is, when he's on that wing, he's best at bringing it wide into the box, then cutting in early. So yeah, I would agree with that. You know, creativeness is lacking in this squad, and I don't know what's going on. And when I see something, I can notify it. But right now, 4-4-2 is the only thing and the only problem I can see. You know, but I could be wrong. Because, you know, we're only using Madsen and Hayden in the middle. And then you've got to kind of understand where his creativeness going to come from. And then it says, then you got to bring in the wingers. So, yeah. Nick says, I like everyone believe in JS, just wait till next season. Like I said, man, I think I have more faith than Marty Fuentes. Marty seems to like playing the same kind of ball. He looked interested in preseason with Leicester, but I think. Wait, oh, you mean can't? I meant exactly which allowed Sato to go forward and shoot. He can do that. Him and killing on creating Sato under Marty was a different great can't I meant exactly which allowed Sato to go forward and shoot. If I'm getting that correct, exactly which allowed Sato to go forward and shoot. He can do that on the wing now as he isn't being allowed. And like I said, it depends on what Julian wants from him, you know? You gotta remember, right? We've been using a 4-4-2 since, I would say... Since Burrell, Swansea, I would say. I would personally say we've been using 4-2-3-1 at the start of the season, and we saw a different playing style. You know, it's much more attacking. But realistically, I can't sit here and say what he's doing at the moment. As far as I'm aware, when you use 4-4-2, you're using two wide midfielders. So yeah. Nick says, my last comment is that if you don't play the same players regularly in wingers, look at Madsen every game getting top marks because he is a regular like Dunn. But you gotta remember the whole point of them two players is that is the energy. The energy in them, they don't. So if you've ever played Sunday League, right, and the coach goes to you, if he sees hands on hips or arms crossed or this, you're getting subbed off because you're showing negativity mentality, if that makes sense. Now with Madsen rarely does this. Jimmy Dunn rarely does this, and this. You know, majority players for QPR, when it comes down to running a lot, they get tired. So in my opinion, there's a reason why Madsen and Dunn are constantly playing. It's because their energy levels are better. You know, they want to play, they show they want to play, and they put the performances in. But it also becomes, you got to remember, if we play teams, depending on the tactics, they might change them, you know? But the reason why they're playing is because they're like keys to a machine. You're not going to take them out, are you? You know, if they're doing really well, you look at other options to change, if that makes sense. Ryan says 4-2-3-1 pushes the wingers forward and more attacking than 4-4-2. Last comment. Yeah, look, it's what we've been saying pretty much all season. You know, I don't like 4-4-2, but realistically, you know, I think it's gone out of the book, but Sean Dyche uses it and it works. But like I said, it's different game plans at the end of the day. But we have to look into it first, you know? I'm not going to sit here and say it's shit, because I personally would say right now, I think he's working on something. The way he's been dealing with the defensive issues right now, it's looking okay, depending on what we see tomorrow. But I will say this, we have to wait and see, you know, and see if he changes something and see what happens at the end of the season. You know, we got to take game by game from here and go from there. But right now, the creative issue is this. We have no creativity in that squad. It's that simple. You know, you got Madsen and Madsen and Hayden at the moment, which are not creative enough. You know, winger wise, I don't know if it's creative enough, and forward wise, depending on what you're doing. So yeah. But I'll end it with this, right? Going into a positive way. Did anyone actually see Robin van Persie's son play the other night? Oh my god. What a player, honestly. What a player. We need to watch out for him, honestly. I think we're looking at someone in the future. So yeah, but yeah, apart from that, we're going to leave it there because we've been going on for an hour on the dot right now. Probably everyone's tired and knackered from work, wants to go to bed. But we're going to leave it there for tonight. We are back tomorrow, hopefully early. We'll see what happens. But 6:30, not 6:30, that's way too early. 7:30-ish is what the aim is. between 7:15 and 7:30, depending on what we do. But yeah, we'll be live tomorrow for the watch along. QPR versus, well, Oxford v QPR. 3 points hopefully come on yours. And yeah, put your comments below, down in the comments, what you think the result is going to be, your predictions. I'm going with 1-0. Ryan's going with 1-0. Nick is probably going with 1-0. But yeah, I reckon 1-0 is the aim. If we can get a win, the 3 points, absolutely buzzing for it. But right now, realistically, we just need our players back and our creativeness to come back as well with it. So yeah, apart from that, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to. Peace, love, positivity, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Shout outs to all of you guys, Nick, Ryan, Jay Guitars, who else we got in here? West 12 Lofters, Harvey as always, your nutter, Steve K. But yeah, all you guys, shout outs to Foley as well, wherever he is. Hopefully he's not running work too wild. Everyone knows Foley, regular guy in the stream, pretty much a mod. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great evening, and yeah, peace, love, positivity.